Hey everybody, it's Gabby. Sorry about the noise in the background. If you can hear that, my laptop is about 200 degrees right now and trying very hard not to die, so I'm gonna make this as quick as I can. We did the thing. Dead launched. Like, I just hit publish on all the pages and linked it everywhere right before recording this. So my heart's kind of going brrr, and we also hit publish on the Patreon page. Patreon covers everything on the site, so, there'll be links and stuff under show notes, and there'll be a big banner image for that. I just wanted to say thank you before we get into this one, and this is a new episode, it's not one of the re-recordings, but just thanks if you listen to all this and like our stuff and stuff like that. Just thank you, because you're really awesome, and it's fun to do this, even though I'm really bad at keeping up a proper schedule. I'm gonna get better, I promise. Yeah. Anyway, that's just about it. This episode is, well, it's the last couple of paragraphs from chapter 3. I don't know what I was doing when I recorded that, but, I just didn't, apparently. And now, the first bit of chapter 4. Enjoy. Hours passed and the storm still raged on outside. Grace and Quinn had moved to the couch, Grace already having used 2 more of the lights, only 3 left until they were stuck in the dark again. So, that's pretty much it. Nothing too interesting, really, Quinn said, shrugging. So Denver's up in the mountains out west. I saw a mountain once, just before you guys shot Lenore down. Quinn winced a little. She'd almost forgotten about that. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, Denver is way up above sea level, even before the floods, so it wasn't touched. Stayed independent too, since the Patriots had to spend so many years trying to get the rest of the East Coast to fall in line. Grace nodded, starting to understand the way the world worked. An ear-splitting crack sounded from outside, followed by a low rumble that shook the room. Sounds bad out there. The engineer nodded, glancing at the door from time to time. Yeah, haven't seen none this bad in a long time. There's a few moments of almost tense silence before Grace spoke again. You're a lot different than I thought. The sudden topic shift threw Quinn a bit. What? The pilot sighed and leaned into the couch cushions, whether trying to make herself more comfortable or hide, she didn't even know. I don't know. I mean, it's not like we really talked too much before. I mean, we worked together, yeah, but I guess I just had this image of who you were in my head. I really liked that image a lot, but that version of you doesn't actually exist. Grace saw a hurt look pass over the other woman's face. She placed a hand over Quinn's and squeezed. That's not a bad thing. I like this one too, just as much. Hell, more I think. You're not a goddess I can't speak to. You're not terrifying to be around. Quinn's face turned a little pink. Thanks. I never meant to scare you. There was another loud thunderclap that interrupted her. Quinn, I really like you. I was wondering if, The blonde smiled at Grace. Let's get to know each other a bit more first, yeah? Something outside slammed into the wall, causing the entire room to shudder. Looks like we'll have plenty of time to. Grace nodded, letting out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. It was something, wasn't it? It wasn't a rejection, at least. That'd be nice. So, where'd you learn to cook? Chapter 4. Fiona and Silas stood on the roof of the former hangar, the captain looking out over her people as they continued to tear apart the town. It was time to move on, before Patriots or Raiders or something else came after them. The storm the week before was the perfect excuse to help convince them it was time to move. She felt Silas's hand on her waist. Have you heard from Doc about the girl? The woman gave a shrug. Still out as far as I know. He said she should be good to move in another couple days. No infection so far. Took half our damn antibiotics, but he says she'll be fine. He brushed his brown hair out of his face with his free hand. It seemed like it was time for a haircut. Rose said the others have been doing all right, too. Apparently they've taken to helping out backstage, cleaning up after shows and all that, as long as they don't have to deal with a lot of people. Fiona nodded and stretched. Good. The two continued watching a little while longer, until the captain suddenly stepped forward off the edge of the building. She swung down a makeshift ladder she'd made to climb up earlier and landed on the ground with a soft thud. She called back up. Come on. I'm going to go check on Red. It's about time we talked to her about heading to Denver. Grace, or Red, as people around the makeshift town had started calling her, thanks to Fiona, was where she had been most of the week, in the engine room of the Saki, learning about the ship from Quinn. That should really be it. The engineer leaned back against the wall, comfortable in her normal environment. I mean, it's really just an Edwards class that we modified. The girl nodded. Yeah, but the changes to the venting system and the way you feed the coolant back into the cycles is brilliant. I bet you could get her going real damn quick when you need to, yeah? Quinn nodded, grinning. Oh yeah, I bet you little Lenora'd have a hard time keeping us in sight if we went full bore. Though it'd probably end up shearing us in half after a while. Hull isn't built to take that kind of speed. Speaking of which, do you have those parts I asked for? I want to get the banger going tonight before the shop gets packed up. Ah! Quinn pushed away from the wall and began rummaging in the piles of parts and tossed some over her shoulder to Grace. Yeah, I knew I had them around here. You'll need this too. Don't open it until you're back in the shop. It'll have to be installed immediately after being exposed to air, or it'll degrade and we'll have to find another. She turned back and handed the pilot a small black metal box. It was slightly warm to the touch. What is it? You'll see when you open it up. I think you... The engineer was interrupted by a few loud bangs on her door. Hey, you got Red in there? Quit sucking face and give me my new pilot back. Gotta talk to her. Grace's already dark skin turned almost purple as she blushed. What? Quinn rolled her eyes. Open the damn door and quit being an ass, Captain. The door opened and Fiona's head peeked around the doorframe. Just didn't want to go seeing something I wouldn't be able to unsee. You, girly, need to talk to you about maybe making a little trip. Her arm reached through to point at the younger woman. And you, her arm swung to point at the blonde. You'll be going too. No arguments. It's your home turf. Quinn gave a drawn-out sigh, already admitting defeat. Fine. Maybe I'll talk to that doc there. Simon, or whatever. Last time I was in town, he said he could fix me. There was an awkward silence that fell in the room for a moment before Fiona spoke again. Red, I want you on this one with me. Write a passage and all that. Grace nodded. Lenora's ready, Captain. When are we leaving? Soon as you two are ready. Gonna take a while to get there and back. Pack for a week. Silas will stay here and get everyone moving. We'll meet up with them after they find a new place to set up. The ebony-skinned captain was leaning almost comically into the room now, slightly swinging back and forth with the door. So, you two really weren't doing anything? Looks like Rosie owes me a couple drinks. The engineer's pale skin turned bright red and Grace turned purple again. Quinn stomped towards the door, yelling, All right, that's it. Get the hell out or I'll shut everything down and no one goes anywhere, you asshole. Fiona cackled and ducked the boot that followed her friend's tirade, scrambling away. See you in 20. Grace hung her head, blushing. I'm sorry they're giving you such a hard time. Quinn leaned against the door as it shut. Nah, it's fine, Red. Guess they just aren't used to me actually enjoying being around someone. Anyway, better go get your stuff around. We've got a real long trip ahead. An hour later, Grace was struggling to get her duffel bag shoved behind her seat in Lenora. Hey, petite flamme. Silas leaned against the wing of the fighter. You sure you're up for this? It's fine if you want to stay back here. The pilot finished pushing the bag into the small space and turned back to the man. It was your wife who told me I had to go on this. He sighed, giving a half smile. Yeah, I know. But this won't be a walk in the park, and I'm second-guessing it all. It's not that we don't think you can handle it, it's just... The man paused, apparently searching for the words he wanted to use. It's just that things aren't as simple out there as they've been here. It's a wasteland in between cities. If it isn't a tribal looking to kill you for your belongings, there's the cannibal clans, the more dangerous mutants from the skyships, the patriots, or just raiders or psychos looking for a thrill. If something happened to you... He looked down at the short woman. It's our fault you're here and not up in blissful ignorance on your former ship. and that makes us responsible for you. That and we're quite attached in general." Grace looked up at him a moment, mouth set in a hard line. Her normally sunny disposition was thrown off by the sudden coddling. "All right, if that's so dangerous and all, why not fill me in before we go? You've had a couple months now to tell me about Fee and Miss Rose. Why haven't you? Or about anything else that's out there. Why not? Did you think I'd just stay in town fixing up ships forever?" I suppose we should have explained more. I am sorry, Grace. Yeah, Fee is always on how much there's so much freedom down here, but so far the only difference has been a lot more water falling down on me, still dealing with no one telling me anything. The two stared at each other for a moment, Grace refusing to back down. Finally, Silas broke the tension. "All right, finish packing. I'm sure that Fiona will tell you anything and everything you'd like to know. It wasn't our intention to keep you in the dark. We were just worried." In less than an hour, Quinn and Grace were waiting on the runway, each leaning against their respective gunships, talking, waiting for Fiona. The pilot was beginning to think something had happened when they heard the roar of an engine that made Grace's spine tingle. Time to get damn jealous, Red. Grace's mouth hung open when she turned around to see the captain's runner, if it could still be classified as one, rolling up behind them. The fighter looked almost like some of the designs of old-world jets, but 3 massive mist engines attached to her undercarriage. The scuffed blue-gray paint was decorated with bullet holes and scorch marks. Twin chain guns were mounted on either side of the fuselage, and missiles were connected to hard points under either wing. The pilot looked back to Lenora and gently patted her wing and whispered, "Don't let her intimidate you, baby. You're not any less special." Quinn smirked at Grace. "You like it, huh?" "Are you kidding? Of course I do," the redhead returned, shaking her head in slight disbelief as she looked up from Lenora. "I've seen the schematics for those engines. F-18, right? And the nose looks like it came off an A-10? How did you get them still intact?" Grace's gushing was interrupted by Fiona revving the fighter's throttle to drown out the two. "That's enough chatter. We got places to be." The two nodded, heading to their ships. Fiona's voice crackled over Lenora's speakers. "All right, we're going to make this as quick a trip as we can. Red, I'm going to need you to shadow Quinn. I'll run ahead, but stay in radio range. If something does happen, bug out and head to the usual meeting spot. You know the one, Quinn. All right, we're going to make this as quick a trip as we can. Red, I'm going to need you to shadow Quinn. I'll run ahead, but stay in radio range. If something does happen, bug out and head to the usual meeting spot. You know the one, Quinn. Just south of that mountain range we got stuck on that one time." The engineer's voice came over the comm. "Wait, there's 2. Do you mean the one from the last trip, after the dogs?" "Yeah, that's the dogs? One. Hopefully they never found out what that was us. Anyway, let's get going." "What dogs?" Grace was curious. She'd heard them mentioned before. "Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I didn't think there were that many of the damn things around anymore even. There's no way we could have connected it to us, though." "I guess not. Dogs? Anyway, let's go." The captain's voice was drowned out even in the cockpit as the fighter's engines roared and she shot forward, the other 2 women quickly punching their throttles to catch up. Grace felt immediately lighter as Lenora's front wheel lifted off the ground, followed by the rest of her. She was home again. The ways of living on the ground were gone, at least for a little while. After a bit, she toggled the radio. "So, Fee, mutants, huh? And what's a dog?" "Alan, please." Alan, bookkeeper of the city ship Leftbrig, stood at the desk of the Reverend Mother, fist clenched, shaking. "It has been months. We have the people we should be looking for her." The mother's voice was quiet and calm, almost sad. "I know, Alan. It has been months, and there's no sign of her anywhere. There hasn't been since the day she left. You can't blame yourself, Alan. Please mourn and let her go." The man nearly fell forward, catching himself on the edge of the desk, head hanging. "I sent her out there, Janice." He felt a hand close over one of his. "It isn't your fault. You gave her what she wanted. We all thought she was ready." The silence that fell over the small office was heavy. "Ma'am, are we doing the right thing? It's been generations. And it will continue, Alan. It must. You've seen what's happening down there. If they knew." "She's lost to us either way, Alan. If she knows, she can never come back." He sighed and straightened, wiping his eyes. Right. Right. Have you heard anything from the others, or are we all that's left? No. None. I still have hope that the General will contact us soon, but for now we'll continue the directive that was passed to us. The Reverend Mother did her best to sound certain, but her voice faltered. The bookkeeper nodded. Hopefully. He sighed and turned towards the door. I'm going to schedule the newest pilots a month extra training. I would rather this wasn't repeated again. Of course, Alan. Try to get some sleep. I don't have that luxury anymore, Janice. Emily stirred, groaning in her half-sleep as stiff muscles moved. She was warm, lying on something soft, a feeling she'd almost forgotten. A brief smile played on her lips before the memories flooded in. She bolted upright, feeling something in her stomach tear, mouth open as she attempted to scream, tears welling in her eyes. Ah, well, you're awake. It's all right, please lay back down. No one is going to hurt you, but you really are in no condition to be moving around yet. A gruff but quiet voice came from her left and her head snapped towards it. A black-haired man stood on the far side of the room, a stack of papers on the table in front of him. She tried to push herself up, but her arms gave out. She frantically looked around for anything she could use as a weapon. Please relax. I'm not going to hurt you. You're in the care of the Saki. The people here call me Doc. You've been asleep for a while. The man slowly turned towards her and raised his hands to show they were empty before placing them both on the desk behind him. She stared at him for a few tense moments before relaxing a bit. She blinked a few times, clearing the tears away. You were brought here shortly after your two friends arrived. Yes, they are safe. They've come to visit you from time to time. Are you hungry? The sudden information in question stunned her a little. Hesitantly, she nodded. All right. We'll get you something. I'll return soon. As he made it to the door, he stopped and looked back at her. Please, please don't try to run. I don't want you hurting yourself. You barely made it as it was. Just rest. I'll be back soon, he pleaded. Emily nodded, wincing a little at the pain in her throat. Even if he was lying, she was in no condition to escape. She lay back and stared up at the ceiling. What to do now?